Christian Rao of Locked On Kansas State. The Big 12 denies the College Football Playoff Committee. Their board said, we want to change the way that we do the format. We want no more buys for the top four conference champions. Instead, we'll just seed everybody. And Brett Yormark's response to this was, hey, wait a second. We know that this is going to go south immediately because of how underseeded BYU, Iowa State, Arizona State all were going into the playoff this season. And while it needed to be completely unanimous, the Big 12, the ACC, and Mountain West Conference said, no, we will keep the bye for the conference champions. This is Brett Yormark surely putting his foot down. Is this a good thing for relationships across the top of college football?
Relationships, maybe not, but it's a strong flex by Brett Yormark, and I think that's exactly what you need to do for the Big 12 conference. You got to watch out for your own. It's like being on an airplane. You got to make sure you take care of your mask before you worry about others around you, Drake. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to Brett Yormark, I think he's doing a fantastic job when it comes to the Big 12. Look, he's talking about getting rid of the conference bye. We already saw what the College Football Playoff Committee was doing to the rankings before we got to the postseason with BYU, with Arizona State. We saw what they did. It was egregious. And I know your listeners here have been talking about it over and over all off season long and before that. But if you're going to take away the bye week from them, not only is that something that hurts home field advantage, it changes the entire aspect. It takes money away from this conference. $8 million the first round bye gets if you get that. And Arizona State, because of that, got that $8 million for the conference. If they would have got a first round bye, they only got $4 million and would have to get that first round win to get that other $4. So why would Brett Yormark take away that money from the conference? Not without a fight. So I love what he's doing.
Christian, you could argue, and Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football has made the case that, hey, some teams might embrace that opening game or an on-campus game, because we just saw Notre Dame and Ohio State, who are a part of those, play in the national championship. Ohio State win that national championship, again, with Kansas State's quarterback. Is there anything there? I know if you ask most college football coaches, they want the bye, but we did see all four teams who didn't get a bye go to that Final Four.
Yeah. And when you look at it in that case, there's definitely a reason for you to maybe consider it. But I think overall, as a conference as a whole, I think you have to think financially first. That's something that we talked about for a very long time with media rights and all that good things. And the reason we expanded in the first place for 12 teams was to get more exposure to the game, right? So I think that's where you have to look at first. But when you're looking at a standpoint of winning the national championship, I think there's no doubt whatsoever. You have to look at the fact that every single bye team did not win their first opening round in the second round there of the college football playoffs. But that's not always going to happen. This is the first time of the 12-team playoffs, Drake. If they're good teams, and we know the Big 12 has plenty of them, unfortunately, the college football playoff rankings don't think that way, but that needs to change in the future. But if they can do that, they can adjust, and I think things will change down the road.
Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, per Yahoo Sports, says, I'm open to a healthy discussion on the topic. I certainly have a point of view that will be expressed in the room, but I do not have the appetite to give up any financial reward that comes with a bye. So if he says, I'm not giving up any money, I will discuss this with you all, but I'm not giving up any money, does that, Christian, basically mean he's not going to do this? He's just going to put his foot down and take the unanimous need completely out?
Yeah, I think while he has any type of leverage, and right now in 2025, meaning it has to be unanimous, Brett Yormark's not going to budge if it means losing any dollars for this conference.
Yeah, $8 million in that, as you mentioned earlier. It's massive, and it's $4 million more than the other. That's $500,000 for every team in your conference if you divvy it out evenly. Giving that up would be very tough, especially knowing that now $22 million are on the table for each school to have to pay their players. And so many, we've heard athletic directors across the Big 12, Jamie Pollard at Iowa State, on the forefront about how money is getting tight for everybody. We're starting to cut building projects, starting to stop. Like, hey, that new scoreboard, let's push that back a little bit, because now we're paying athletes so much money. Money is as crucial as ever. And Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Navarez says this all seems a bit quick. Christian, do you feel like the format then of the playoff needs any change? I know you mentioned sample size of just 1 year. Should we alter anything going into next season?
I understand the reason why you might want to get rid of the buys for the conference winners. I understand it, but I'm for it. I'm for keeping the way it is. I think we're eventually going to get the 14 teams. I think that's just the nature of this beast. They want to bring in more. But as of right now, I was happy where we stood. The only thing that I was disappointed about, Drake, is the fact that only one Big 12 team got in when arguably at least two deserved it. And we all know in this case, it should have been BYU.
No doubt, especially after the way they beat Colorado. BYU had a case at the end of the season, and not the biggest slap in the face was not being left out. The biggest slap was not being in the conversation. No one, no
not
graphic.
Even close. It was insane. Yeah,
like you turn on game day or the show, and they're not even remotely close to the rankings, and they stomped Colorado and proved that BYU could have at least made noise. Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, also said to Yahoo Sports, the NFL, which we believe is the highest level of football in our world, thanks, Jim, for just sliding that one in there. Yes, agreed. Has a system that rewards divisional champions. You see it in Major League Baseball, too. It's not as if this system is so foreign this shouldn't be used as a convenient rationale. It deserves a review, and we should talk about how it went, but it's not some exotic structure. Do you agree that college football can be compared, conferences in college football can be compared to NFL divisions or MLB divisions? Because, there are cases where a team with a worse record gets a bye compared to a wild card team based on who won the AFC South.
I mean, there's 134 teams in college football just at the FBS level. I think it's really hard to even compare to that standpoint. I'd have to disagree. I think that you can try to make the conversation, the comparisons as much as you can, because that is the next level, obviously going to the NFL, and that is the end goal for 90% of the players that play at this level to get there. But when it's all said and done, I think you can't make that comparison. I think you have to have a true independent study of what you're going to decide on and when you're going to expand and if you're going to keep conferences. I think that makes college football that much more special. I mean, the fact that we're not really talking about the fact of how great the NFC West is. Oh man, like we're excited. We're going to wear t-shirts about the NFC West. No, we're not doing that. We're doing that about the Big 12 though. We're doing that about other conferences as well. It has a really special feel. You don't get that in the NFL.
Yeah, we'll talk BYU, Kansas State, the title in 2025 next, but I'll leave us with this. If we move to that format this past season, the byes were not given to conference champions. The 8 versus 9 game would have been Indiana versus Boise State. And again, all these SEC pundits would have been crying that, oh my goodness, so-and-so Tennessee has got to play this tough first round game against Penn State. And while Indiana gets to play Boise State, no matter what, people are going to complain. Coming up, way too early predictions for 2025 in the Big 12. It's Locked On Big 12 and Locked On Kansas State, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is where I have made money this NFL season. I will continue to do so throughout the playoffs. At Prize Picks, you can pick two guys. It's the easiest daily fantasy app that there is. 10 million members, billions in winnings. It's changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Playoffs right now. It's time to up the ante. You can win 1,000 times your cash, picking more or less on at least 2 players. That's right, 1,000 times your cash if your picks hit, just by making like a few simple picks. For me, I would go with like a Josh Allen over 40 rushing yards. Risky, sure, but over. Travis Kelce, more than 60 receiving yards. Tricky, he's been kind of tough this season. Over. Those two things hit, you win money with Prize Picks. With our flex play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. With the app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, just $50 for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game.